Hanukkah began last Thursday night, and this past Friday, Buddhists all over the world celebrated Bodhi Day, or Rohatsu, as it's known in Japan. And it really is, Bodhi Day is the celebration of the birth of Buddhism. It is the celebration of when the Buddha became enlightened, when he woke up, if you will, out of his 49, most scholars will say, most texts say 49 days under the Bo tree, which then became the Bodhi tree. I'm talking about this idea, carrying it from last week, of light, utilizing, however, the original meaning of the word light, not to be confused with the Hallmark version of the word light. The original meaning of the word light that had the most weight to it was enlightenment, spiritual growth, enlightenment. So I'm connecting this idea of enlightenment from the experience of Hanukkah and Bodhi Day to modern day, to our experiences right now. So, again, tonight will be the fourth night of Hanukkah. And I have been thinking a lot this week about our Jewish and Palestinian siblings, brothers and siblings, and all over the world, sisters and siblings all over the world. And I get caught up because I get emotional. And there's something that kept coming through that I wanted to focus on this year as we talk about Hanukkah. So I remembered a story that I love so very much that really speaks to this idea of enlightenment and light. So one day, there was a rabbi, and she was teaching an 8th grade class. And one of the students raised their hand and said, "Rabbi, I feel that I am meant to have a special role, a special job in this world. But Rabbi, I don't know what that job is." How many of us have ever felt that way? A rather precocious 8th grader, I would say, but how great. So the student seriously asks the rabbi this question, and the rabbi looked at her students and she said, "Okay, all right, friends, what is the most important job in the world?" And the answers came from all corners of the classroom. You know, one kid raised their hand and said, "The President of the United States," a firefighter, an artist, a parent, a doctor. One who was really needing a better grade said, "A rabbi." Oh. So the rabbi then said, "Let's go a little deeper." And the student said, "Yes, I want to know, what is my purpose? What job will give me my purpose?" And the rabbi asked the students, the students to go deep, to take a deep breath. She then said, "Do you know what the most important job in the world was in the ancient times? It was the person who lit the lamps. It was the person who was the lamp lighter. This person would have a long pole, and on the end of the pole there would be a flame. And this person's purpose, their job, was to light the lamps for everyone to be able to see." And the student who asked this question in the first place raised their hand and said, "Well, okay, but what if it's way on top of a mountain and it's wintering and it's snowy?" And the rabbi said, "Well, the lamplighter would need to put on a very warm coat, a hat, and some mittens and go up the mountain and light the lamp." And then another student raised their hand, not to be outdone. and said, "But Rabbi, what if there was a lamp in the middle of the ocean that needed to be lit?" Only an eighth grader's creativity would come up with that, I think. And the rabbi smiled and said, "Well, then I guess that person would need to put on a bathing suit, that lamplighter, and go swimming out into the middle of the ocean and make sure that that lamp was lit." The rabbi said, "The most important thing is that there is light. The most important thing is to bring light to the darkened, shadowed places." And then the student who asked the question originally said, "Rabbi, I hear you, but I still don't know the right answer of what my purpose is in the world." To which the rabbi replied, "No matter what you decide to do with your life, your purpose is always to be that lamplighter, to light a light in the shadowed, challenging, or difficult places." It's not about what our job is. It's about how we show up, right? It's about how we show up. So I ask you, who in your own life could use a little bit more light this season? We all have at least one person, if not more. Where could you travel out into the middle of someone's ocean and light a candle for them? For those of you who are not Jewish, this menorah, also known as the Hanukkah, it has 9 candles, and the candle at the center there is the shamash. Now, the shamash is the candle that we use to light the other candles. And I want to say, in interfaith multicultural work, sometimes we make mistakes, and it's okay. Like, I'm not Jewish. I grew up Catholic. I lit the shamash, and then I automatically started lighting with the other ones and went, "Oh, no." And this is the candle that lights the others. The word shamash actually means servant. Even though this candle is taller than the others, and it may appear to have more seniority, if you will, it is the servant of the others. It is meant to light the other candles. The shamash is known as the helper candle. And that, my friends, is our job, is to be the shamash, the helper, to help, to serve, to support, to uplift, to be a beneficial presence, a force for good, a light for others. Barbara Brown Taylor wrote, "Every human interaction offers you the chance to make things better or to make them worse." Every human interaction offers you the chance to make things better or to make them worse. A simple idea, but my goodness, how often do we forget? When people are afraid or in pain, we can unintentionally complicate things. Oftentimes we mean well, but so often we rush in to fix. You know, we see someone in pain and we want to put a Band-Aid on it or give them some fancy coaching or do something that will just make it stop. And oftentimes, being a light for someone is simply to witness their pain, to companion them in a time of challenge. People ask me all the time, why did this happen? Why did that happen? When they are in agony and pain. And I am ministering to them. And many of you know my answer is the same. I wish I knew, darling. I wish I knew. And I'm here for you. I'm here for you. One of my very favorite teachers, bless you, on the planet is a Quaker teacher by the name of Parker Palmer. I have learned so much in ministry from the light that he is in this world. Many of my retreats are modeled after what I learned from him. circles of trust and a very gentle way of approaching things. He's a human being I adore. And Parker Palmer, in different times of his life, has gone through very serious, debilitating bouts of depression. And one particular time early in his life, his depression was so bad that he had a hard time getting out of bed, this brilliant human being. And, you know, in the Quaker tradition, there are friends. Isn't that beautiful? They're members of the church are called friends. And he had a friend who asked permission to come over every day at 4 o'clock. And with his permission, this gentle man would come to Parker Palmer's house every day at 4 o'clock, and he would put a chair in the living room, and Parker would come and he would sit down, and this man would massage his feet. He would say very, very little, sometimes just hello and goodbye, and he would massage his feet. And sometimes, this man might say something as he was massaging the soles of Parker's feet. He would say something like, "I'm intuiting your struggle today." And that's it. And he would continue massaging his feet. And then down the line later, this angel on earth would say to him something like, "I feel that you're lighter today." And that's it. And Parker Palmer, to this day, he came out of that depression with even more to teach and bring the world. To this day, he says he cannot come up with the words of gratitude that he has for this man in his life. He doesn't have the words. It was that life-changing for him. He has said many times that it was somehow that man who connected that one part of his body temple, the soles of his feet, kept him anchored to this life. So often we have an opportunity to be a lamplighter in the smallest ways, just by showing up. Parker Palmer said, "The human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, to be seen, heard, and companioned exactly as it is." To be seen, heard, and companioned exactly as it is. When we bring our light, or please think of it as our enlightenment. When we bring our enlightenment to any human being, to any situation, the first thing we are doing is we are knowing their wholeness. There's nothing broken. Someone might feel broken, but there's nothing truly broken ever, right? When we bring our enlightenment, we bring forgiveness. Forgiveness is a daily spiritual practice, my friends. So often we've been taught in the West that it's like a one-off. It is not. It is not. I don't know about you, but many times I have to forgive several things a day. The person who cuts me off, whatever. Right? I'm going to be doing a workshop in January. I invite you into that. It's an incredible way to start the year. But bringing our enlightenment is showing up undefended. Bringing our enlightenment is being willing to say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." Bringing our enlightenment is being willing to sit in someone's pain without the need to try to fix it. A person who worked with Mother Teresa in Calcutta shared that there was a bathtub in her hospice where they would wash someone fresh off of the street, and over the bathtub on the wall was a sign that read, "This is my body. This is my body." We understand in New Thought, in our New Thought teaching, that we are all one. We understand my body is your body. We are one. And when we can remember that, we can bring our enlightenment because there is no other, right? There's many ways that we can be that lamplighter. We can show up We can witness pain in the way that Parker Palmer's friend did so beautifully. That small act and yet so dedicated. Hanukkah means to dedicate. In this season, we can remember the power of dedicating ourselves to bringing light for others whenever we can. And in turn, it's amazing how much we feel, how lighter we feel when we bring light for another. Yes? Isn't that extraordinary the way that happens? So, I mentioned earlier, oftentimes interfaith, multicultural work expect to make mistakes. You know, that's part of the learning curve, right? It's part of moving out of our comfort zone to really understand something else. So I want to share with you the sweetest, I just think it's so sweet, and I want you to understand the energy with which I share this. It's pure love. So I grew up in a Catholic household. We had an Advent wreath every week of December. We're going to be having that as we get closer to Christmas to honor the Christian tradition. And we had a Christmas tree and all of that. And my mom, hi Mama Peggy, for those of you, she watches us every week from California. Love you, Mama. So my mom is a retired college professor. She taught humanities and Asian studies and world religions. And so multiculturalism was very important in the house that I grew up in, the Catholic household, Catholic progressive liberal household that I grew up in. Ba-dum-bum. No. As much as is possible in that environment. And so every year we would get out all of the Christmas things, you know, all of the Christmas things. And my mom had, now, okay, this is the very early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, so bear with me. We all did our best back then, didn't we? So we had an electric menorah that was plastic, and you'd plug it in. Instead of the candles, it had those like fake Christmas lights. Do you know what I'm talking about? And so you'd unscrew them, and then you'd screw it back in so it would light up, the plastic menorah. And in an absolute, with her absolute intention to have us, myself and my siblings, grow up with this idea of inclusivity, we would light the Advent wreath and we would always have a menorah. And I remember asking my mom, she would put it in the front window. And we'd have our Christmas tree and the menorah, and I said, so Mom, and I was young, like 5th grade, 6th grade maybe. So Mom, why do we have this? We're not a Jewish family. Why do we do this? And she said, because, honey, we always want to light a candle for others. And this is a time where we get to light a candle for the Jewish people. So beautiful. And if you're Jewish and I offended you in any way with that, I sincerely apologize. The intention was there. The love was there. This idea that we get to honor all people in our way, even if the menorah is plastic and a plug-in. You know, the intention was there. And she planted those seeds for me personally, where I was able to look up from the Advent wreath. I was able to look away from the Christmas tree and say, oh, there's a whole other way of celebrating the divine, my little 10 or 11-year-old self. Thank you, Mama Peggy. You're amazing. There are so many ways that we can be lamp lighters in this world. So many ways. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be big. It can be. It often is, but it doesn't have to be. There was a gentleman, maybe you heard about this, in New York, who was truly, truly being the shamash on that train. When he got on the subway, he saw that the train's windows were filled with anti-Semitic slurs and symbols. And he just very quietly took out some hand sanitizer, and he just wiped it off of his window on the train. And as he looked up, he saw people pulling out Kleenexes and hand sanitizer and wipes, and they wiped down every one of the windows of that subway. Nobody said a word. They just did it. That is the impact of one human being deciding to be that shamash. From the Hebrew Bible in Proverbs, it says, the soul of a person is the lamp of God. The soul of a person is the lamp of God. I'm going to invite you into a spiritual practice that I engage in during Hanukkah. And, this is Sunday, so it's all right. We'll start today. But for this week, I'm going to invite you to light a candle each day for one person, a situation in your life. Are you willing to do that? That's spiritual practice. It's amazing. You get your cup of coffee in the morning if you're a coffee drinker. You can light your candle then. You can do in the evening, whenever it works for you. Some things you might consider lighting a candle for a ceasefire in Gaza. You might consider lighting a candle for the Jewish people. You might consider lighting a candle for those in Ukraine and Russia. You might consider lighting a candle for the families impacted by the gun violence that happened in Las Vegas this week. You might consider lighting a candle for a loved one, a person who could use the massaging of the soles of their feet right now. Whatever that is for you, I invite you into that practice. And in doing that, what we're doing is we're carrying on the conversation that we had last week about angels. We started our interfaith month last Sunday talking about angels, because angels are throughout all the different faith traditions in various beautiful, magnificent ways. And one of the ways that we can be angels for each other on this earth is to be the lamplighter, to literally light a candle, to not only show up in ways that show our unconditional love for others, but to actually physically light a candle for someone. This Bodhi Day, this day that Buddhism was born, has much to teach us in a super, super nutshell. For those of you who don't know, Siddhartha Gautama was a prince. He became discontent with his princely life. He left. He saw the suffering in the world. And then for many, many, many years, he traveled. He was an ascetic. He traveled India trying to find the answer to the pain in the world. And finally, when he sat under the Bodhi tree and went into meditation, and in that state, by the way, he had all kinds of challenges and difficulty. The earthly world was tempting him out. Of course, he was 49 days. The guy must have been pretty hungry. As legend has it, right? The story goes that he stayed with the pain. He stayed with his feelings until he was able to recognize the light in the center of all of it. Light and dark is not a binary. I want to be very, very clear. Some of the most glorious, glorious insights and healing happen in the shadowed, dark places. So it's never about turning away from that. It's about leaning into light. And we do that by first making the conscious decision that we too get to be enlightened in this life. It's not for the monks on the mountain. It's for all of us. That was the message. And that was the message of Jesus of Nazareth. It's the message of all the great teachers. This is my body. It's all of us together. So I'd like to, for a moment, invite you to close your eyes. Those of you online, close your eyes. Or if you're more comfortable, you can gaze softly at a point in front of you. The point is to turn within. So I invite you to take a deep breath. And in this moment, I just invite you to bring into your awareness, first, something in your own life that you may be still sitting under the Bodhi tree about. something that is perhaps wanting to be healed from within you. Or maybe it's something that is wanting to be born from within you, to grow you. And as you investigate what this is within you, I invite you to gently ask how this would light a light for another person. How this thing that you are ready to let go of, to heal, to grow, to be born, to discover, how might that also light the way for another person? How might that serve someone else? How might that be the shamash in your world? In doing that, in recognizing that whatever it is that is wanting to be born from us, recognizing that that can be of service to others, amplifies it, and the light gets even brighter, and the way becomes even more clear when we recognize that whatever that thing is serves others, brings light, and serves the planet. So let yourself just be with that for a moment. Whatever that is for you. What is it that you are ready to dedicate yourself to? It might even be just resting more. Whatever it is for you, that's your soul calling you into your greater becoming. And so taking in a deep breath, just anchoring this for yourself. You might consider as you move through this week and you're lighting candles, you might light one for yourself for this as well. Taking in a deep, nourishing breath, I invite you to open your eyes, gently come back to the space. We have an opportunity to be a light for ourselves, to illuminate whatever it is that is wanting to be illuminated from within us, and in doing so, we create more illumination on the planet. For our people, for our families, for our community. That's how it works. So I invite you this week to deeply consider, to look up, to look around, to look at families, workplace, community, and ask yourself, where can I be the shamash for someone else? Where can I do that? And let us dedicate ourselves to taking a stand for what is right and what is good and what is always possible, which is more love, which is more light. Let us show up enlightened, my friends. It doesn't have to be a big deal at all. Let us show up with soft edges for ourselves, for others, with forgiveness, with compassion, with the willingness to wipe the slurs off the window. Let us remember Mother Teresa's beautiful reminder, they too are my body.